Florida, once known as a land of sunshine, palm trees, and affordable living, is now at the center of a full-blown housing nightmare. For decades, people moved to the state chasing the dream of homeownership and a slower pace of life. But today, that dream is slipping away faster than ever. Across cities like Tampa, Orlando, and Fort Myers, the housing market has reached a boiling point, and no one seems able to stop it. The median home price in Florida has surged to record highs, jumping far beyond the reach of working families. In many regions, it's not unusual to see a small, two-bedroom home listed for $500,000 and still spark a bidding war. Renters aren't safe either. Monthly rent costs have nearly doubled in just a few years, forcing families to downsize, relocate, or take on extra jobs just to survive. What was once the most affordable major state in America has quietly become one of the most expensive, and while prices soar, wages have barely budged. The average Floridian working full-time simply can't keep up with the cost of living. Meanwhile, property taxes, insurance premiums, and utility bills keep rising, turning homeownership into a luxury instead of a goal. People who have lived in their communities for decades are being pushed out, replaced by cash buyers and investors with deep pockets. It's not just an economic crisis. It's a cultural shift. Neighborhoods once full of working-class families are turning into short-term rental zones, vacation hubs, or investment properties owned by corporations. Locals are being priced out of their own hometowns, and the divide between the rich and everyone else grows wider by the day. Even with the governor promising action, many Floridians say it's too late. The floodgates have opened. Investors, hedge funds, and out-of-state buyers have already moved in. The Florida housing market has become a gold rush for the powerful and a disaster for ordinary people. For the first time in decades, the American dream in Florida isn't about starting a new life under the sun. It's about surviving a system that feels rigged against the very people who built the state, and wondering when, if ever, relief will finally come. When Florida's housing market began showing cracks, Governor Ron DeSantis made a bold promise to protect everyday Floridians from being priced out of their own state. He spoke about curbing inflation, reining in greedy developers, and ensuring Florida remained a place where hard-working families could own a home, not just rent one from corporate landlords. His words echoed to the state like a lifeline, especially for middle-class families watching prices soar faster than their paychecks. But several years later, that promise feels like a distant memory. Home prices have continued to rise at one of the fastest rates in the country. Rent has surged to record levels, leaving many residents paying half their income just to keep a roof overhead. Affordable neighborhoods have been bought out by investors and turned into luxury rental properties or short-term vacation homes. The dream of homeownership, once attainable, now feels like a fantasy for thousands. Critics argue that the governor's policies, while popular among developers and big investors, have done little to solve the root causes of Florida's housing crisis. Tax incentives meant to encourage construction have often benefited luxury projects instead of affordable housing. Zoning reforms have been slow and inconsistent, leaving cities unable to expand affordable options. Meanwhile, population growth continues to explode as people from other states move in, pushing demand and prices even higher. Supporters of DeSantis claim he's doing what he can within economic limits. They point to the Live Local Act, which allocates funds for affordable housing and offers incentives for developers to build mixed-income communities. However, critics counter that these measures are too small compared to the scale of the crisis, and that the real winners are still the investors who can afford to wait out the market. The result? Ordinary Floridians feel left behind. Many are moving north to cheaper states or downsizing into mobile homes and shared spaces. Others are working multiple jobs just to keep up. The governor's vision of a strong, affordable Florida has yet to match the lived reality on the ground, a reality where the American dream feels increasingly out of reach, and the gap between promise and performance grows wider every year. Florida's real estate market has become the new Wild West, a land of opportunity for investors, but a nightmare for locals. As interest rates fluctuated and out-of-state buyers flooded in, entire communities began transforming overnight. Streets once lined with family homes are now dominated by sleek new developments, luxury condos, and gated communities designed for wealthier newcomers. What was once affordable for a teacher or firefighter has now become a playground for cash-rich investors and remote workers fleeing high costs in New York and California. This real estate gold rush didn't happen by accident. Low taxes, sunshine, and business-friendly policies drew in corporations and retirees alike. Add to that the post-pandemic work-from-anywhere culture, and suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of Florida. Investors began buying properties in bulk, flipping them for quick profits or renting them out as vacation homes. Ordinary residents, competing against these cash offers, were simply priced out. In many counties, the median home price has doubled in just 5 years. Miami, Tampa, and Orlando are now among the least affordable cities in the entire nation. Renters have it even worse, with rents jumping as much as 30% in a single year in some areas. For families, the math no longer adds up. Even those earning decent salaries can't keep up with skyrocketing costs. And while developers boast about growth and modernization, longtime residents see something very different: displacement, community loss, and cultural erosion. Meanwhile, politicians celebrate rising property values as signs of a strong economy. But strength for whom? Higher values mean higher property taxes, and that burden falls hardest on those barely hanging on. Retirees on fixed incomes are being forced to sell the homes they've lived in for decades. Young couples are giving up on the dream of ownership entirely. This gold rush has created a two-tier society: those who profit and those who pay. Behind every booming skyline is a quiet exodus of working families, quietly packing up and leaving the state they once called home. The question no one in power seems to ask is simple. When investors move on to the next hot market, who will be left to pick up the pieces of the communities they hollowed out? On paper, Florida's economy looks unstoppable. Cranes fill the skyline, luxury towers rise by the coast, and headlines boast record home values. But beneath the glossy exterior lies a growing illusion, a housing mirage built on speculation, corporate greed, and a fragile foundation of unsustainable growth. The promise of paradise has slowly become a trap. For every person making a fortune in real estate, there are 10 struggling to keep a roof over their heads. It's a tale as old as capitalism. When money smells opportunity, humanity becomes a collateral. Big investment firms, Wall Street-backed landlords, and private equity giants have quietly infiltrated the Florida housing market. They buy entire neighborhoods, sometimes hundreds of homes at once, outbidding families before they even have a chance to see the property. With their endless capital and algorithms Florida's housing market has become what many are calling a mirage, a glittering illusion of prosperity that hides a brewing affordability crisis. From the outside, new condos rise, cranes swing across the skyline, and real estate agents boast record prices. But beneath the surface, ordinary Floridians are struggling to keep up with the dream that once defined the Sunshine State. Over the past few years, home prices in cities like Tampa, Miami, and Orlando have skyrocketed beyond what middle-class families can afford. While demand keeps climbing, driven by out-of-state investors and retirees seeking sunshine, wages have not caught up. The median income simply cannot compete with million-dollar listings and rent hikes that seem to reset every month. For many, homeownership, once a reachable goal, now feels like chasing a mirage that disappears just as you get close. Even renters aren't spared. Florida's average rent has surged more than 30% in just a few years, making it one of the fastest-growing rental markets in the country. Meanwhile, property insurance rates are doubling in some areas, with homeowners paying thousands more annually due to rising hurricane risks and rebuilding costs. As these pressures mount, people are being pushed out of neighborhoods they've lived in for decades. Adding to the illusion is the wave of investors and corporations buying up homes in bulk, not to live in them, but to profit from them. Neighborhoods that once fostered community are transforming into investment portfolios. Locals are beginning to realize that what looks like growth on paper is actually pricing them out of their own cities. Governor Ron DeSantis and state officials have faced increasing pressure to respond. While some programs aim to expand affordable housing or limit rent increases, critics argue these steps are too little, too late. As the cost of living continues to rise faster than paychecks, more residents are packing up and leaving the state they once loved. The Florida housing mirage is more than just an economic issue. It's a social one. It represents the widening gap between those who can buy into the dream and those who can only watch it shimmer from a distance, fading into the heat of reality.